Well, people say that numbers matter, impressions, click-throughs, and all that. No, if you want to build your brand and expand your brand, you got to look at it the other way as well, which is...
Now I'm starting to feel that power again. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it professionally.
So just so the people know, you guys are John and Jules. And John, you mentioned that you guys were, was it around 0.57% on OnlyFans?
0.52 as of today.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Nice.
And then, you know, after kind of going through some of your podcast stuff, you have all kinds of interesting stories. But let's kind of go back to the beginning here and tell us the sort of origin story of you guys.
The first question people will say is like, how did you meet?
Yeah.
And we met online. We met on a website, on an app, OkCupid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually like, I'd been married before, and he was in his second marriage. So yeah, it was just kind of, you know, as a femdom, obviously I had a totally different perspective of dating, and I also lived the life of a femdom. And so when, you know, we met for coffee that first time, I explained to him, this is what I do. This is what, you know, and he likes to say, you know, he had his phone underneath the table, like Googling the initials of the things I was talking about, because he had absolutely no clue what this was.
That's adorable.
And so shortly after that, I mean, it wasn't long. I was a bit smitten because he's an executive. He's totally put together. You know, he's on his way out of a divorce. I mean, I was thinking this is something different. So that's really where it started. When we got together and we started, you know, of course, talking about what do you want, what do you don't want, and he was in a sexless marriage, and he's like, I want to experience things.
Yeah, everything from in the kink world. We've done poly, we've done triads, we've done lifestyle, we've now OnlyFans, and now broadening her brand. And yeah, we just kind of go where we having fun. Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, we were interested to talk to you guys because we're just kind of touching the surface, barely starting to dabble with, you know, the poly stuff and just, you know, kind of some of these alternative things. So we're super like rookie and super new into that scene. So I figured you guys would be like the best ones to talk to. But I heard you mention on one of the podcasts, you said you kind of started to sort of dabble with the swinging community, and it was like oil and water type of situation for you guys. So I'm curious how to learn a little bit more details about that, kind of how that whole thing played out.
As a femdom, a female dominant, I am the one in control. So I'm the one who decides what's going to happen. I also train submissives, and so in typical like vanilla setting, it's the man who is the one who decides where we're going to go to dinner, or you know what kind of vacation we want to do, or the roles are switched pretty much. I got thrown into this room of like all these men, and they're like, you know, I was like, oh hell no, like this is not happening. And so John's like, okay, now let's. I'm like, I want to experience that. I want to. So it was a lot of back and forth, and to know that. And John, this is where the trust between us started to really happen, you know. And then of course we would go back and we would talk about it, and I'd be like, I just can't do that many people in the same room, or you know, and keep altering what worked. And then you know, there's times that it grew up. And then we go right back to the drawing board. But that was a learning curve for me, because I wanted to go past a very comfortable space. So, and it just happened to be in the swinging world.
Interesting.
There's been a few oil and water type of things. I'd say
Yeah.
This is before me, but when she was a lifestyle dom, so she had men that served her, and you know, she had a stable at her house. That's a lifestyle dom. So you know, you've got 2 or 3 guys take care of you, everything. And then when you start to do it commercially as a professional femdom, then that's oil and water between those two communities. the lifestyle femdom and one that makes money, right? So
Yeah.
that was one of the first ones. And then you got in the swinging side where, even once you get past the initial, she just spoke about, then COVID hit, and then OnlyFans, and then you're filming content. Then you were really a swinger. You were one of them type of things.
Yeah.
And then, finally, a lot of our swinging friends we just don't have. And all of our great friends that we have now are in the content or lifestyle, and, they either dabble directly or indirectly. But, we kind of surround ourselves with like-minded people, and, our like-mindedness changes over the years. Going back to the poly, right? That was us, first meeting and wanting to explore. And I think that first coffee, you had a girlfriend then, and she was crystal clear. That's my girlfriend, so I will not be sharing her with you. And that was a great relationship that we had for a triad, because I traveled back in my job, and then she was always there to take care of Jules when I wasn't there, and also when I was there. And that lasted for a good couple of years.
Yeah.
And then we got married, and she was with us when we got married. And matter of fact, we all had a great night in the same bed.
Our honeymoon night, right?
All three of us slept, and the next day she had to catch a flight out to somewhere, and we haven't talked to her since.
That's it.
Oh, wow.
And then, just to hit on your poly stuff, I mean, everybody always says, okay, communication. But it's so true in a poly setup, because especially if you have a primary relationship and your second person is an add-on for one of you, as opposed to bringing in one for the three of you, you're all shared. It's kind of a different arrangement. But we were in one poly relationship with a lady out of New York. She was quite aggressive, and that lasted for about 3-4 months, but it was very rocky because I, recognized the signs even from the first dinner that we had, that she was a cowgirl type. And that's one that rides in, lassos the girl, and tries to take her away. Right. And so she didn't see all the signs, and she didn't for like 6 to 8 weeks. And one day I had to grab her, by the waist, put her on the counter, and said, listen, we need to talk, because you're ignoring all these signs, and let me point them out to you. And it was that abrasive move to get you to kind of look at it. And then I said, unfortunately, this is heading down a road that's just not going to work. And I'm not being a jealous guy. I'm just telling, she's trying to make it not a poly, and she's trying to get it 100% for her. If that's what you want, fine, declare that up front, and then we can move on.
And, going into that, I think as when I first, we'll say found her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the communication's already starting. And so at that stage, it would have been ideal if John would have been like, okay, you're really hot on this one. So know that we call it now the ripcord. Now know that if I need to pull the ripcord at any time, that you are going to be willing to do that. So you set up that parameter, and we didn't do that. But to be fair, any of the people that we've talked to when we were getting into swinging, they're like, you just have to go for it. You can't learn from other people.
Right.
Yeah.
I also heard you mention another kind of situation on I can't remember which podcast, but you said in the swinging situation, a lot of the couples, like those guys, are essentially using their girlfriend to bait the other woman to sleep with her and stuff like that, which seems like I could definitely kind of see that happening, because we're on the what is it called? Field?
Oh yeah, fields.
Yeah, so all the couples are interested in Sierra, obviously, and so like I kind of get that vibe from some of them that's like, all right, they're trying to kind of use their wife or girlfriend to kind of bait you in or whatever. But I guess I'm curious to know more about that, because you've actually sort of been in those situations. So how did that sort of play out?
Yeah, I'll let her describe it. But the only thing I'd say, it's probably why we're not in the swinging lifestyle that much, because it happened too consistently.
Interesting.
And we've come up with our own name for that. We call it "Buy for the Guy." That the wife will become "Buy for him." And as you said, you're kind of feeling that. I would first and foremost say, trust your intuition. It's spot on. And if it's not, Oh well, there's many more, fish in the pond. And because what happens, I mean, sex and all of this chemistry, it's all about vibrations, right? And so things are getting sexy, things are getting hot, but then over here, like Sierra is kind of like this lady's like, she's not really feeling this. Like her hand will be on your leg, and you're like, yeah, I mean, if it just feels awkward, and then you're like, and then you may be getting, thinking this his partner is, this is working out well, but what it does is it puts Sierra in this position of when the two girls are meant to go together, that it's so fucking awkward. And for me, it was like kissing a frog is the way I explained it, and then it's just because they're so like I don't want to be doing this. This is not I know I want to make my husband happy. I really do, and you're pretty. Yeah. But I'm not bisexual. And so it puts people in a really awkward place, because now I'm looking at my husband, and of course my husband's looking at me going, what the fuck? And I was like, and he doesn't want to be there if I'm not enjoying myself.
That makes sense.
So what we used to do is just have the wives talk.
Mm-hmm. I would talk to them first. No bite.
Yeah.
Also, go to like places like Desire Pearl. It's a much better environment to go to a resort where everybody is open-minded, and you just go off vibes as opposed to written words. Yeah.
And you can also sit back and watch.
Yeah.
To adult clubs. Have you done that?
We've never done it.
No, there's not much like that here. Interestingly, I feel like we need to kind of just start traveling, going to bigger cities where they have stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, let's Jules, let's go all the way back, and because I pulled up your website, which is fucking awesome, by the way, and I looked at your book trailer and stuff like that, and I heard you mention, your childhood was not sunshine and rainbows. So let's get into that for a minute and kind of just explain how your childhood went and how that sort of, I guess, ultimately, led you on to the path that you're on now.
Well, like as we were saying, Midwest is very small town, and that's a small town mentality. And I'm a believer, and I must say that start off with this, but I'm a firm believer that things are not bad and they're not good. It just is. And so when you take the judgment out of it, it doesn't have its power. So growing up, you're right, I went through some pretty crappy things. I was one of 6 kids. My first father, was a very heavy drinker, attempted a family suicide when I was younger. And then with the second family, my mom, who she married into, was very incestuous. And so then as, we've grown in family size, I've lost contact with my mom. Right now I'm with the kids, and literally my mom lived in the front part of the trailer with him, and the kids lived in the back part of the trailer. So there's a definite distinction that there's 2 different routes here. So there was multiple incidents, throughout my adolescent years that include this sort of sexual abuse. And so being trained or taught or nurtured like that gives you that instinctual ability to turn the light switch off, which is actually called trauma brain. You turn the light switch off, and you kind of go into this kind of an outer body experience. It's a beautiful tool. When now I'm getting bad grades, I'm smoking pot on the corner, with the burnouts. It's a beautiful tool, and now I'm starting to utilize that. So then, keep moving forward. I get into topless dancing. Again, I got that switch. I got that little power switch. So it means I'm not emotionally engaging, really, with anybody. But I'm getting my needs met. And at this stage, again, that survival stage, is I need to have a roof over my head. Because as a heavy drinker, alcoholic, I couldn't hold down a job outside of like swinging on a pole. Right, I didn't have that kind of stability that was needed, and it just continually got worse. So this went on for 19 years. I drank, I drugged. The relationships would, spiral in, spiral out. And that is how much trauma was here and how detached it was, and also detached from the world around me. So I'm grateful that that part of my story is behind me. But like I said in the beginning of this, I don't see it as a bad thing because, first off, I survived it. So there's got to be a reason why that all happened. Because where I'm at today, all of the negatives from my past have become assets in my present. So that's what the book is about, right? So I was writing to the girl in the back of the room who thought she was alone. So now I have eyes for things that, I got chills on that. I have eyes for things that some people don't. I know what it looks like to wear a mask and be drunk and think everything's just fine. I also can work and help women in traumatic situations, and also I'm a voice when it comes to my sexuality. I not only had it ripped away, I when I got sober, I got to go back in and look at it. And now I've been able to build it to a point where I walk proud of who I am today. And I get to be an example for other women that you don't have to fit in the fucking boxes so many people try to shove us in. So that is pretty much a little snapshot of, what it was like and how it's like now.
Wow, I love that.
Interesting. And then I heard you mention somewhere that meditation became a big thing for you. But I was curious to know, your specific practice. Are you telling yourself mantras or affirmations, or what is the specific practice that you do that's been helpful?
I started with Deepak Chopra's 21-day meditation challenge. And I found it in a yoga magazine, right? So I thought, what they say in recovery, I need to start doing this meditation crap. So I'm going to go ahead. This thing, they send it to me, MP3, every morning they send me a new one. And so I would listen to it in the morning, and then I would listen to it halfway through at the end of the second part of my day. And so, but then what happened, now I use Insight Timer. Are you familiar?
I'm not sure. I've heard it. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
It's a super big community. It's an app, Insight Timer. And on there, it's whatever you want it to be. I've done the different waves of, delta and alpha, and then the theta waves, listening to music and, bringing my body down that way. Breath work, I'm, 17 years sober. So I've been able to try different things. And for me, it's I found that where I'm at on my journey, source or the universe provides for me. So, how someone will be like, oh my God, you got to read this book. I take that as a sign from source. Out of nowhere, why are you telling me to? And I have pieced together my journey that way because I believe my source works through everything. That's how I've navigated spiritually of where I'm at today.
That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of the Wim Hof style breath work, and Sierra's a fan of, are you familiar with Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
I love Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, so Sierra's a huge fan of him. So I was looking at your book trailer and stuff like that. So let's talk about that for a minute. So what was kind of the inspiration for your book and everything, and how did you get all that going?
With a story like mine, I would tell people along the way, and of course they're like, girl, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. La, 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 la. And there was times where I started to do the timeline because heaven forbid, that was a disaster trying to remember. And so bits and pieces over probably a year and a half before that, I really started to put pen to paper. And then again, kind of like what I've just explained, it's I would like to see, the idea came to me, the title actually came to me in meditation, The Making of a Woman from the Inside Out. And then I found this person who resonated with me. She happened to be in a location where my husband and I keep our boat. I mean, there's just a lot of these little, nothing's by coincidence. Still, over COVID, it pieced itself together. And so every Tuesday, we'll say, we met, on Zoom, And I started at stage 1 of life, and I told my story to her. And then what it was is that then she, because she's also on the other side of things, she was able to put the power of what I was experiencing into words. So that's how the book came together. And we did book signings and all of that, even at the tail ends of COVID.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And then so on one of the other podcasts, I heard you mention, or you guys were kind of talking about, like, you were doing OnlyFans before the book, and then you kind of took a break from OnlyFans and wanted to do the book thing. And then after the book project was over, that's when you guys, got back into OnlyFans and stuff like that. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, my husband's over here going, yes. Because, when you close an app, they're gone, right? Like all of those followers are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, baby, I'm in the deep part of the story. I can't do both, right? Like not at this stage right now. My calendar's full of all these pictures of the past. And I was like, I can't go here right now. I said, let's just put this on hold. And being as supportive as John is, he's like, all right, whatever you want, baby. It's your deal. So you got through the book, and then January, the following year rolls around, and I was like, all right, now I'm starting to feel that power again. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it professionally, right, correct, or whatnot. And we did. And the majority of the fans that we so-called lost, they found their way back around. So I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, so it made me, it kind of made me think about the eternal struggle that Sierra and I always have, which is on one hand, you have the things that you're passionate about, the things that you want to do that don't necessarily get views or fans. And then on the other hand, you have a bunch of shit that sucks. You don't want to do it, but that's what works. That's what gets views, and that's what gets fans.
Yes.
Yeah, so I work with like a lot of the top creators and software developers and stuff like that. So I have a lot of access to like, the data of what everybody's doing that gets really big results. So I'll look at this data and like, it's just such a clear path. Like, all right, if we just do this, like, this is like it's such an easy path, like in my mind's eye. And then I'll be like, I'll get super excited. I'll bring it to Sierra, and she's like, I don't want to fucking do that. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Exactly. That happened right the fucking time.
I guess I always have to remind myself that we're doing this for fun. Yeah. And if we get to a point she really doesn't want to do something, then don't do it, because it's going to ruin the whole thing. Now, but there is a difference between her wanting to do something, not understanding, right? If you say, okay, bad example, but we'll go outside and you do a TikTok dance, which she doesn't do, right? But you do it and, you'll get 1.1 million impressions or whatever, and that will equate to so many new fans. Then she'll go, let me think about it. And she still may go, no, but she thinks about it, right? And then she puts on her business hat. So a lot of times when I'm trying to explain trends and all that that's relevant to her, she really pauses and puts her business hat on. And if it's big enough, she'll do it. So, and if not, I don't want to make her uncomfortable. It's not worth it, because her fans will see that she's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely agree that like it has to be, because that's always the balance that we're trying to find. Like I'm, again, just a huge data guy, looking at all the stats, looking at all the stuff, working with different people. And then, so I'm trying to like figure out, all right, how can I take this stuff that's working and bridge that gap to where she's actually going to want to do it to some degree in a way that it still works and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm sure like a lot of couples probably deal with, to where one is like, the data one, and then the other one is the talent. And then it's hard to kind of like bridge the gap between the two a lot of times.
I still do Reddit. But, so we had to add in another person to look at those numbers and figure out the TikToks, figure out the reels and those things. And it helps, because I got to a point where I couldn't keep up with it. So we've had to add on people, and that's helped, right? So it's been 3 months we've had? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's worked out well.
And Sierra, it's a new person too. I think it's different doing something like this. We're in relationships. Let's face it. Like, I'm pissed you didn't why didn't you empty the dishwasher? No, get sexy. I mean,
yeah,
we have a lot going on here. This isn't just a regular job. And so, having somebody else shoot is amazing. It's a totally different vibe.
Because we fly her to where we are about 1 week a month. Matter of fact, she's coming here tomorrow, and we'll spend 3 or 4 days just filming content. And it makes a huge difference of me going, I need this, versus her that, says, here's what I need, here's the shot. And she's like, okay, done.
I love that idea of, having somebody else kind of film it and do it. Cause I'm like really, like my natural personality is like really kind of stoic and bland. So I struggle to like, to do that and be like, oh yeah, you work it, girl. Like,
so he's shooting and then he's silent. And I'm like, I need you to talk to me. What's going on? Like, tell me, I can't see myself. So
for you guys right now, what is your best performing platform?
TikTok to Instagram, Reddit is probably the number 2, and number 3 is Pornhub.
And what type of content do you do on TikTok?
We try to post different content. So if we just do thirst traps all the time, bikini pics and, whatever, I can see the numbers just tanking.
Yeah.
So, I tried about every 3 days or so do fitness TikToks, whether it's her in the gym, or I think we're going to do one tomorrow about nutritional planning or something to change the approach. Seems to help regenerate the algorithm. So that's what we kind of do on the main one. And then we'll do the thirst traps on the other ones and see what happens. But I think that one's big enough now that if we change to more of a fitness, we can start to do brand deals and those types of stuff. It's tough to do brand deals with thirst traps. So that's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the other big points I try to push as well, is like, creating that bridge to where if you can sort of establish yourself as a mainstream influencer, specifically in the fitness niche is a really good niche to get those brand deals and different affiliate partnerships and all kinds of other ways to monetize the social media aside from just OnlyFans. That's like, I don't know if you guys saw or look at the group announcements anymore, but I'm right in the middle of like a big course update, which is really kind of focused on that aspect of, building your social media accounts in such a way that it's going to drive in a ton of, fans for OnlyFans, but also, having that capability to bridge to that, to those mainstream brand deals and stuff like that, because, OnlyFans is unpredictable and who knows what could happen with it. So having, multiple streams of income from brand deals and other ways to monetize your accounts is going to become more important as we move into the future with OnlyFans, and it just becomes, more and more saturated, more competitive, and just everything like that. So yeah, I think what you guys are doing is just fucking spot on. I think it's great.
But when you do that class, we'll be in the front row.
Yes, please.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll quote what you said to me, John. You said, or maybe Jules, one of you guys said this to me in Telegram. You said, I've also was nominated for XBiz MILF Creator of the Year and have been focusing on capitalizing on that. So my question is, when you say capitalizing on that, what specifically are you doing?
It was John that you spoke with. And he's saying this with my brand and pro shoots.
Interesting. What are those kind of other ways that you're monetizing, like through those avenues?
It was the first, I think I did like kind of a cold calling, actually. I went through the various, the companies of the adult industry, I guess. And I just filled out one of the forms. Again, who knows, and so I think it was in January. Team Skeet, she wrote back, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And then she went silent for like 3 weeks, and I was like, "Well, that was anticlimactic." But hey, that was cool. Hey, I'm glad that I at least have my number. She called back again a few weeks later, and this is when I did my first pro scene. And so I did with Melfi and Team Skeet. And another reason why we moved to Fort Lauderdale is this is the Mecca. This is a Mecca for a lot of those porn companies. And so I haven't told my friends yet in the other room, but was it not this last Monday, but the Monday before, Brazzers has reached out.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
And I did my 2-step intake, interviews, and I said, "Oh, what do I get to expect next?" And she's like, "I don't know. They want you on the set though, so pretty soon."
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys are fucking killing it. That's awesome.
It's
Congrats
exciting.
on that stuff.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's very exciting.
And then another thing, I was pumped because you mentioned, so I'll quote again. It says, "I recently added a team dedicated to promotions and connecting me with the right people in the adult business. Did my first 2 pro scenes with Team Skeet and MILF. So lots is going on, and it's all started when I did your program. As the accounts got larger, positive things started to happen." So that's awesome. I'd love to know more about how just that whole thing kind of played out.
Yeah, so we started following your program, it must have been 9 months ago, and we followed it pretty close, the ant approach and the farms and creating multiple. And then all of a sudden we started seeing, good traction. And then that was very positive, and we kept that going. We were also then at the time part of the Hot Wife Tour. So we were going about once every 2 months for doing content, orgies, and, everything. So plus you meet, 7, 8, 9 other ladies with good accounts, and you cross promote, right? So that helped a lot. Those plus your program got us to a Twitter account that's fairly large, Instagram that's large, TikTok that's large, and we've maintained it. So we've tried to make sure to heed your advice on not doing anything too questionable that would get it, axed and start over again. So I think we've had good momentum, knock on wood, and all that stuff. But then when we went to Don Juan DeMarco and that's the entity that is promoting her more in the adult industry side, AVN, XBiz, press releases, and also is with us at all the big conventions, introducing us to everybody. So that's good. But the first thing that they go is say, "Well, you've got some good numbers," right? So, well, people say that, numbers matter in impressions, click-throughs, and all that. No, if you want to build your brand and expand your brand, you got to look at it the other way as well, which is collaborating with other people that have, equal numbers, or if not better. So it's kind of like you just need to continue to go up that escalator with those people who have similar numbers. And even we had a call last week with someone who's helping us with our entire brand, because we're looking at kind of redoing it to figure out how can we do a better website, how can we do a better LinkedIn or, Beacon, how can we do mail programs and those types of things. The first thing they said is, "You've got some serious numbers," right? Which is now we can start to look at doing the more of the brand business and looking at affiliates and those things, which weren't a possibility a year ago before we started your program.
Wow. That's super awesome. By the way, if you're feeling stuck with your progress on OnlyFans, there is no better place to be than the OnlyFans Level Up community. The Level Up community is a private group on Telegram where you can network with all kinds of amazing creators, many of which have been featured on this podcast. Over the years, I've documented with step-by-step video modules the best systems, the best tools, the best strategies used by the highest earning creators. Regardless of your skill level, it's a great place to meet other creators and see all of the best secrets that you can't find on Reddit or YouTube. The link for that will be down in the description below, but for now, back to the podcast. One of the things that kind of comes up on the podcast a lot is, when creators come into the industry and, they're not necessarily used to social media or exposure and stuff like that, and then their first video goes viral and they just get a ton of, hate from the conservatives and the red pill and, all these kind of crowds like that. Jules, you seem like someone who's like, you have a lot of confidence. I get the impression that it doesn't really bother you that much, or does it?
Well, I'm human. So at the beginning, it pierced my heart like it does everybody, I believe. In fact, there is one particular time where I'd gotten off a plane and we opened up a post and I kind of giggled at a few of them, and John was driving, and as I kept reading and reading and reading, I could just feel my energy level He's like, stop reading. Almost like I'm a drowning victim. Stop reading, stop reading. And at that point, we're like, you know what? I am the product. The product has to be pristine. Me reading this shit and putting it into me is not going to keep that. And so, John does a beautiful job of, clearing through. I'll get a few of them. Of course I do. Right. Are you transgender? Are you, no, I'm not trans. Those sorts of things that used to be very hurtful to be judged or misunderstood. And now it's kind of like, dude, you have bigger fish to fry than me. Like, if that's what you got, I can't help you with that. So, and I think that's really what happens. I just detach from it at this stage.
So fortunately, I get up before her. And so I will clean out the messages before she gets to them. And we've done it that way for a while. Now, I'm pretty good quickly at glancing and picking out the negative ones and deleting them or whatever. And I don't really read them. Once I, see where they're going, I stop, delete.
That's true. That is true love right there.
Yeah, that is very sweet.
Yeah. If we were in it just for the money, we'd want those in there. If anything, we want to go and argue against them to stir up traffic. And therefore the algorithm will, give it more likes, but it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. We did a podcast episode a few weeks ago where we did it just for this purpose. We were talking about how, the conservatives are trying to put all these restrictions on porn and all this kind of stuff, and just kind of pointing out a lot of the hypocrisies with the conservative, with a lot of the things that they say. And sure as shit, that podcast just fucking launched into the conservative red pill communities and just... so I did that on purpose because I was like, I want to get a bunch of haters in the comments, and then maybe we'll do an episode where I'm just responding to haters, and that could be a pretty interesting episode. Are you guys do you have any systems in place with how you track your traffic and conversions?
We recently switched. Well, we were on LinkedIn, which is everything was kind of thrown into LinkedIn and doing the metrics there, but I didn't like the direction that LinkedIn was going to supporting this line of work. So then I switched to BioLink for a little bit. Didn't really like that. And just last week, I switched over to Beacon to be the ultimate, place that I can at least look at some of the metrics. And that has gone a lot better as far as what I can tell. And I've also done the little special links on OF and the other sites to see where they're coming from. And we also do polls about once a quarter on her OnlyFans to say, where did you find her? Where did you find me, and those types of things. So that's why I got a pretty good feel of where they're coming from. But I'm hoping working with this other company where we do totally change her website, change the link stuff, put things more in mailing, and be more data driven on some of our efforts to decide where to do some more promos or what different types. So we're not there yet, but I'm hoping maybe if we have a conversation in 2 months, I can bring true actual data and how that made us change our workflows. That's what I'm hoping.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. We kind of migrated to using Beacons for all of our link pages too, because Beacons is one of the only ones where you can create, multiple pages from that same Beacons account, and then you can put the OnlyFans tracking links into each individual Beacons page, and that's a good way to kind of track stuff. At least the problem with the OnlyFans tracking links is they're not super accurate. They only track 1 out of every 3 conversions.
Yeah, I noticed the conversions is way off from what they're posting, and I was like, no, something's off. And even the inbound from Reddit isn't accurate. Neither is it accurate on Beacon. So there's something to do with Reddit that's not showing up from what we're getting feedback on the total number. So I've got to tear into that a little more and see why it's not tracking as well as, say, the Twitter traffic or the Instagram traffic.
I think it's mostly because a couple of years ago, there was a law passed to where, if you download an app on your phone, it says it now has this little pop-up. It's like, do you want this app to track? And you can say yes or no. So those kind of privacy laws were implemented. So anyone who's using like an Apple device, if they click no on their apps, then it'll basically block that, it'll shut down the cookies so it can't follow you. And that's why it throws off a lot of the conversion data.
Okay, that makes sense, because I'd say 90% of your traffic's through mobile phones, maybe 85, but yeah, a huge portion. So that
I haven't really found any good solutions to but using the tracking links, you can definitely get an idea of where your stuff is coming from. But I'll generally just like multiply it by 3, because I've tracked it all manually and then kind of compared that to the OnlyFans tracking links. So if OnlyFans is showing something like 10 conversions, then in reality, it's actually more like 30. So that's kind of just the general, way that I do it. So going back to kind of the insecurity stuff, because I find that this just is probably one of the most popular things that comes up on the podcast. Do you have any kind of like, so I know you kind of, just mentally disconnect from a lot of the hate comments and stuff like that. Well, I guess first of all, what are your kind of strategies or stuff? Because we've been doing this for a while, but you still get kind of beat up from the comments sometimes.
Yeah, but I think it depends on my mental state for the day. Like, it's just so important for me to keep my mentality right. And if I'm feeling a little down that day, or, if I haven't been like anchored in my behaviors, and I'm falling off the wagon with meditations or whatnot, then yeah, that stuff gets to me more than it would if I was like on top of my game. But for me, that's the key, I think.
What would you say, Jules?
Like she was saying, but like everybody's a little different. And when you asked the question, it reminded me at, I believe it was XBiz, where we saw a panel of performers, professional performers, and every one of them had a therapist. They're like, yeah, I have therapy every week. Like, it's part of the mental health is a huge part of this. And like we said, it's like, if I have a fight with my husband, the last thing I want to do, I'm at a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some times where I'm like, I can't respond to these posts today. Today's not that. Or I'm going to do this after I get done at the gym. Anything that will change that mindset I get, I think, because as women, we're so emotionally driven. Where men are like you're saying, it's like, here's the numbers. It's what you got to do. A, B equals C.
Yeah.
Women are like, wait a minute, we can move it over here. Let's check it out here. What do you think? And so we take it totally different. And so that's pretty much, again, we say the word communication, but it's one thing for me to say something that happened 5 years ago, and it's a totally different thing for me to tell you right here and now. So, and that's the important thing for me. So when I come out here and I'm in a foul mood or something, and I'll be like, I'm just not doing this right now. I fuck when I can't do this right now. And he's like, but at least he knows like not to expect it.
Yep.
That's that hard truth. And so talking about it, if that's to my therapist or if that's just telling them that I'm not going to do this right now. Mental health, spot on.
Don't push into it, because again, we're doing this for fun. And if it's not fun, it's not fun. Right. And we don't do it. And therefore we pause maybe for a day or two. So, but eventually we get back into it, because she does like talking to the fans. She does like doing the things. And so it's kind of like when she did her book, or y'all talked about that earlier. When she did her book, finished all the promotions, she was the one that said, I kind of missed the OnlyFans stuff. Can we go back into it? And of course, the first thing I thought is, I just shut everything down, 6 months ago and don't want to start up. And, she was like, no, but I want to do it for me.
Right.
And she came up with, because we had changed names. She wanted, her name to be more associated with fitness as opposed to a hot wife or something like that, and wanted to be wider. And, it was then you were training for nationals. So we kind of changed it and went into more of a fitness, dominant person.
The empowerment.
Yeah. Empowerment.
Like hot wives and lifestyle things, they felt not so empowering. So if I was going to do OF, I was going to do it my style, and that's who I am.
Yep.
Well, you do have this kind of like aura of confidence or like, you know, just, I don't know what it is. There's like a vibe of like a powerful woman, just like, like, you just really come off like that. So is that like, how did you sort of develop that? And yeah, tell us about like the fitness stuff. 'Cause you do look fucking amazing.
Yeah, you look amazing.
And like, yeah, tell us about all that.
Thank you. And mostly for the first one, because that's all from the inside, right? I got sober. That's where it started. And one of the wonderful, many benefits about getting sober is, besides, you know, ending the tornadoes of my life and hurting the people around me and myself, I have the opportunity to clear the crap out, fix the things that I broke, and then go back in. And then that's when I got to see that authentic, as we hear so much, that authentic self. And the thing is because I didn't trust people, I did it according to my relationship with Source. So I had no influence. In fact, I didn't even have a TV. I couldn't afford one. So I didn't get the commercials of what makeup and what a girl's supposed to look like, or what type of clothes I was supposed to. It didn't matter. I couldn't afford them anyway. And so I created and built who I am inside by doing the journey my way. You know, actually, even earlier this year, speaking of honest truth, I desperately wanted to go to XBiz, and my husband was out of town, and I mean, he's my confidant. He's there for me, and he wasn't going to be able to be there, and I was like, fuck, I want to do this so bad. So I asked one of my friends, I'm like, will you come with me? I just want to go to this particular workshop. It was like a meet and greet type of thing, but I knew that my anxieties would be too high to get me out of the hotel room to where that location was. Like, I had that to me. I have this debilitating anxiety, and I know it. And, you know, and so, oh God, my husband, he's so patient. But so there's still stuff there. But I've been fortunate enough over the years to just keep, when something kind of comes to the surface, I don't have the luxury of drinking it down or pilling it down or lying it down. You know, I get chocolate, but, you know, and I think when I got sober, it's, you know, it's physically, emotionally, and spiritually, first, second, and third year of sobriety. So year 1 and 2, I'm a hot mess trying to pull it all together. But around the year 3 is when I needed the spiritual. And I still had a lot of rage, a lot of anger left in there. And there's only so much you can do in a therapist's office, right? There's only so much writing, so much fucking journaling I can do. And so that's when I had the pure introduction of the gym. And I had always had this horrific relationship with my thighs. My mother had given me body dysmorphia through being around her all my life. And so I would actually wear Spanx in 100-degree weather under blue jeans in Texas.
Wow.
That's the chatter. Chatter. So then I took all of that and I went to the gym. And I saw competitors don't have a sliver of that on their legs. I want what you have. Teach me how to do that. And that's exactly what I did. And also what I found, not only was I able to, you know, change the physical parts of me, I started to feel a sense of relief. Because if you think your thoughts, there's that saying, you know, your thoughts are your actions, Well, my thoughts are like this. You go in and you push that out. You know what I mean? Like, so leg presses, I'd be super anxious the night before. I tell John, we can't even have sex. I need to have every ounce of fucking energy because I have legs in the morning. And he was like, baby, that's 100%. This is very important to you. But I would go there and I'd watch the plates go on and I'd watch my legs change and the confidence that started to build. And the first time when someone says, are you a competitor? What? Holy,
yeah.
Are you kidding me? Really? And the ball, and it keeps going and it keeps going, right? So, and that actually kept going to when I placed third nationally.
Awesome.
Wow, that's fucking awesome.
It wasn't what I was expecting, right? I was going there to change the way my legs looked. So I think that's a lot of it too, is, like sources like, you know what, you just focus on this right here. I got the rest. They don't touch it. just focus on what I put in front of you. And at the time it was like, girl, just get your ass sober. So that's what I did.
What is your, for people who might not be into the meditation scene or all that kind of stuff, how would you explain source?
I feel for me, source is love, right? So source is everything of when I cuddle with my dog or my friends walk in the room or, my husband's here or even what we're doing right now. This is super exciting. I'm enjoying this. Like source is seriously present. But then also source is along with me on this times that aren't that comfortable. But I know more than anything that it's the ebb and flow, right? And that's probably because I've had experiences of the ups and the downs. And I've seen miracles in the rooms of recovery. You can't make that shit up. You cannot give a pill to that. You can't. I've seen people come in homeless. They're living in, shelters. They stink. They're probably still drinking, probably an hour before they got there. And 3 months later, they got a job at the hot dog stand. They're cleaning up. They're in that sober living. That's source. Humans cannot do that on their own. So I think it's everywhere. And it's a hard question to ask or to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez, that's a big question.
How would you answer that?
I wouldn't really know how to explain it other than saying being in alignment with kind of what you said, like what will be, what is, and like kind of just being in alignment with how things will play out and not kind of swimming against the stream, I guess. And I don't know, how would you say it?
To me, it's just the knowing within myself that there's like an energy around all the time. And like you said, not always just in the good moments, but it's there in the more challenging. And I know that I'm held by it. It carries me and I'm always okay. And so when I remember that it's there, I'm able to kind of surrender and trust and move forward with the things that I can control and just, know that those things are held for me.
I like that you're then always present. All you have to do is connect into it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll have your website and stuff linked below. Is that the best place to find you, or what? If people want to learn more about you, where's the best place?
So is that a go right now with all the changes?
We're going to change it.
Yeah. For now, it's good. And then we'll change it up once we start doing some more work.
And then the final question, what is your biggest dream?
Oh, to be able to walk into any room and vibrationally stay the same, to hold my own.
I like that. That's a good one.
That would be an amazing, because then I could experience so much.